When you take a walk to combat art block and you get an idea, maybe great, maybe not. You grab all your paints, all your pencils, set a date to create something, maybe great, maybe not. So join me today as I draw something great. It's Kai Draws Now. Hey everybody, I'm the Otaku Artist, and today I'll be reviewing the anime ZombieLand Saga. However, that's not all, as this is a Speedpaint as well, but not just any Speedpaint. This was a commissioned artwork and video from the amazing Renegade JP on Twitter. He's a really good friend of mine, and I highly recommend following him on Twitter for some great ZombieLand Saga edits and posts. He commissioned me to draw his persona and his favorite character from the show, I. Now, before I jump into my review of the anime, let me say that this is a 90% spoiler-free review. There are a few parts where I spoil some things, but there will be a warning on screen to mute your audio or skip to the part where I'm done. So please follow those directions if you haven't seen the anime yet. So, without further ado, let's start with my first impressions of the show. When I first saw episode 1, it was not at all what I had expected. I had heard of the anime's name thrown about here and there, and I knew that some of my friends liked it, but that's it. I mean, I could gather from the title that this was about zombies, but that was it. So, without spoiling anything, this anime is about girls that have come back from the dead by the wacky character Kotaro, or as I love to call him, Glasses Guy. Kotaro has brought them back to life for a very interesting reason. To turn them into idols. No, not that type of idol. If you don't know what I mean, I'm talking about like a group of singers who are stars and perform. So why on earth would Kotaro take actual dead people and turn them into stars? Well, the reason is that he wants to bring life back into this hometown called Saga, and this is his way of doing so. However, just like me being skeptical of that reason, the girls are kind of skeptical of that reason too, so we actually don't know too much about the why. They kind of hint about it, so I'm guessing in Season 2 we're going to get more info on this and Kotaro's backstory. Now, the entire show is very lighthearted and a comedy, and it's about the shenanigans that the girls face while trying to become stars, all while hiding the fact that they're, well, zombies. And as you can tell, this anime originally released in October, so yeah. So if you want to watch it, highly recommend watching it around the spooky season. So let's rewind a bit and go back to episode 1. When I first saw the show, I was really shocked at the opening. I won't spoil what happened, but man, I did not expect that to happen. Although after seeing Mexico City actors with poor Hibaya, I should have expected it. Although shocking, it was a good way to start the show and get it moving. Now, after seeing the first episode, I liked it enough to want to continue with episode 2. I didn't really think much of it, because I liked it, but at first I thought it was just an okay show. So, let's jump to the episodes 1 through 5. These episodes are generally silly, as the show is a comedy/drama. However, we really don't see any drama until around episode 6, but I'll talk about that later. In these episodes, some really funny stuff does happen. And I will say there were times where I giggled and I thought it was actually really funny. There's even this one part where there's a rap section. And man, I actually did not expect to laugh out loud about that. However, there really isn't too much going on in these episodes besides shenanigans. And well, I wanted more than that. I kept on thinking about how I wanted to know more about the backstories. How did they become zombies? And I want to see at least some angst or sadness, because they gotta be sad about being zombies, right? So let's move on to the second half and see if they deliver. Now, starting with episode 6, it starts to take a more serious tone, which is really well thought out and good. There are still some funny bits, of course, but each episode focuses more on drama and the backstories of the characters. We start to learn how each girl died before they became a zombie. Now, this is fantastic pacing and where the show really started to suck me in and I became hooked. I went from thinking it was an alright anime, just, a comedy, to absolutely adoring it. I wanted to watch more, and before I knew it, I had seen all 12 episodes and had finished season 1. This serious tone really pushed the character development and was a very good creative decision. Now, speaking of the girls and character development, let's talk about the cast of characters. Now, there are a lot of characters in this show, which is a great thing. Now, for the main characters, we've got our main crew of 7 girls. Each girl has a completely different design, unique personality, and backstory. Each idol is also from a different time, which makes them more interesting. Each girl had great character development throughout the show, which made them very easy to love, and because I love all of them, it's honestly super hard to pick a favorite, which just shows how good and well written these characters are. Now, like I said, I can't really pick a single favorite at the moment, but my favorites are Saki, Ai, and Yugiri. I also love Lily too, but if I had to choose one, at the moment I'm leaning towards Saki as my favorite. Now in this season, we learned backstories on how they died for most of the girls, but not all of the girls, which gets me excited to learn about them in season 2. In all honesty, there's a lot of things I'm looking forward to in season 2, but I'll talk about that later. Now for the girls, Sakura is technically the main character. However, since all the girls are so fleshed out, get it, because they're zombies? Okay. Anyway, since they're all fleshed out and the episodes star all the girls, sometimes focusing on specific characters, I consider all the girls to be equally important, which is a great thing. Another character that's important is the crazy Kotaro, which I've already touched on, but he's a super funny guy. At first, I was a bit weirded out by him, but by the end of it, I grew to love him, because he adds the most comedy to the show, so I'm glad they chose such a crazy character as the one who brought all these girls into this crazy adventure. Now, besides the girls and lovely Kotaro, there's a ton of side characters, new ones every single episode. Now, I don't want to spoil them, and frankly, there's so many that it'd be impossible to say them all. But I really love how each of the extras in the show do have a personality, and even some of them show up throughout the show. Every character is voiced by a fantastic voice actor, but let me just give the spotlight to the one who really did above and beyond, Kotaro, because I laughed a lot with him. There's times where his voice actor tried doing a French accent. In another episode, he freaking yodeled. And then there's one scene where he's taking a bath and he's wearing sunglasses in the bath. They really picked fantastic voice actors, and each and every one fits every character perfectly. Even the extras and side characters sound amazing. So whoever was in charge of casting needs a raise. Now, for the main cast of girls, not only did they have to voice act, they had to be good singers as well. And honestly, they all sang beautifully, and there's even one episode where they have to rap, and they deliver. I've never heard Japanese rap before, but it really sounded cool, I'm not gonna lie. I won't say the specifics, but there's a few times throughout the shows where the characters mess up on the song or get nervous, and the voice actors really did a fantastic job of sounding bad or nervous on purpose as well, while also they sounded natural. Now then, this show is about idols, so let's move on to the key part about idols in this anime: the music. This anime soundtrack is fantastic. Throughout the show, we hear the group performing amazing original songs, all with different moods. Like I said before, the voice actors are great singers and perform well. Now, besides the music they perform, the music that plays throughout the show in the background is great. Whoever made the music really did a great job at creating mood music and memorable tracks. The opening song is really good. I will say it's funny, but I honestly prefer the full version without sound effects more than the TV version of the OP with sound effects. Because, you'll understand this more once you see it, but the first few times it was pretty funny, but then it gets a little annoying, I have to say. I will say, I'm not talking about the song, but I don't really care about the opening's animation. I kind of wish they stuck with the scary zombie stuff at the beginning of the animation and not just jump into silliness and references. Because, most of the opening, they do, I can't think of what it's called, but I'll have a picture on screen, it's a parody of that. So, However, the most important fact is the song itself. The song's great and catchy, and memorable, but the animation I would change. Now, the ending song, however, is not memorable at all and kind of just boring. Seriously, I know that endings in anime have to be slow-paced, but they can be memorable. For example, Attack on Titan Season 1, that has a great ending song. And, let's say Re:Zero, that has a great ending song. There's a ton of anime I could name that I'm thinking of off the top of my head that are slower but more memorable. But this is just something you'd play to put a baby to sleep. Now, normally I don't skip ending songs while watching anime, but I always skip this one. There's not even any animation in the ending song either. It's just boring background drawings. So that's my only complaint. So I really hope that we get a better ending song with actual animation in Season 2. Because one of the things I love about watching anime is I always look forward to the opening song and the ending song. And it's just a little disappointing when it doesn't deliver. Now, let's talk about the art style of the anime. I'd say the art style is cute and pretty much anime standard, not particularly unique, but the artists who work on this were very good at drawing. I like the bright colors they use, but I noticed that in most of the shots, they just stuck to flat colors with minimal to no shading, which is a little disappointing. However, I will say that there are some scenes that the lighting is really good. For example, there's a motorcycle scene where it's at night and the motorcycle lights are shining on a bunch of characters. And then also, some scenes where they're singing on stage, they did good with the lighting. But for most of the normal, everyday talking scenes, there's just no shading. I do have to say, though, if this art style was different, the anime would have a very different tone. With this art style that they chose, we get a cute anime tone that has a lot of comedic effect. But if it was more realistic, however, it would have a much darker tone, and comedy wouldn't fit it. So, to keep it lighthearted, the art style works. However, I will say I would love to see how this show would look in a different art style. But I will say overall, it's a good thing that this is the art style they chose, because it's a great contrast in the scenes where they actually do make them look gross and creepy as zombies, which is really good because it has a great shock value, especially when they're, oh, we're cute anime girls, and then it's we're zombies, and then it shows other characters getting scared. So I will say the art style really does this anime some favors for scenes like that. Now, this is a little pet peeve of mine, but one thing I noticed that is a lot of anime, including this one, the girls don't really have noses. And you'd think for someone who draws anime art style art, I would be fine with this, but, listen, most of the other characters have defined noses, like Kotaro and other characters, but all the main girls just have a speck as a nose, which would be passable, and I wouldn't mind if it was just the front profile. but they can't do a side profile to save their life. Now, side profiles are difficult to figure out in anime style. It took myself a long time experimenting to get a good mix of realism and anime to get a good side profile. I mean, just look at that difference. Although, I will say, I do keep the anime look with the side profiles and specks for noses for chibis, but that's on purpose. But in this anime, I just really dislike how they do side profiles. I mean, that just might be me, but the thing is, I notice in other anime when they have the classic anime side profile, which always reminds me of like My Little Pony, how they do side profiles for some reason. But I hope you know what I mean. Like, I expect it because it's anime and it doesn't bother me, but in this, something's just off. Like, just proportions are incorrect. So, I know that this is such a small thing and it probably doesn't bother a lot of other people, but I am curious, what do you guys think of side profiles? Do you guys prefer a more realistic looking side profile, or are you fine with the anime kind? One last thing on the matter. I have to say, I actually don't mind most anime side profiles. I think they're cute. It's just how this anime does it. It just looks wrong to me, like a horse or something. Now, tangent aside, sticking with the art in this show, let's talk about the animation. Now, I will say the anime is just okay for most dialogue scenes. Not the best, I will say, as there are some shots where there's no movement for way too long. However, it's passable, because there are a ton of parts where there's a lot of movement. For example, whenever Kotaro is speaking, he always moves his hands around, which is great. Now, I would rate the anime low if that was it, just Kotaro moving around and the rest just basic. However, I don't at all, because most of the scenes in this anime have a crazy good amount of animation. Like the zombie scenes where they have to walk around and like an arm will fall off or whatever. And then all of the parts where they're singing and dancing. So like when they're practicing or they're on stage, they really go above and beyond with that stuff. And they move their arms, they move their legs. All the song parts are lip synced and everything. So the animation for them dancing is really good. And far more than makes up for a couple of scenes where they're just sitting down at a chair and talking. Now, one of the key parts that really stood out to me is the scene where they rap, because that's so well done! Now, they are really, really good at doing different expressions, and you can see them really in these scenes. Now, there are a few scenes where instead of 2D animation, they use 3D animation. If I can remember correctly, I believe this is only 3 times in 3 dance scenes. Now, before, when I first was watching it, I thought it was just them being lazy or something. But no, to be honest, the 3D animation really gives the scenes more oomph, because the models are super good, and they match the art style perfectly, and if you weren't paying attention, you probably wouldn't notice that they were 3D. And the models are fully lip-synced as well, and have a wide range of emotions. So if we ever get some sort of ZombieLand Saga game, maybe similar to the Vocaloid games, then I hope that they use those models. Woo! So, with all of that out of the way, let's go over my brief overall thoughts on the show. I absolutely adored it. Way more than I thought I would. This show is just so unique, and I gotta give it that. Because if someone told me, oh yeah, this show is about zombie girls to become like pop stars, I'd be like, I'm good. But when you actually start to watch it, I ended up enjoying every single episode, and I got sucked into the characters and story, and I wanted to know more. So, I'd rate it an 8 out of 10 stars. Oh, and for anyone interested in watching their show, there's no fan service, which is always a plus in my book. And despite it being about zombies, there's no blood. However, I will say, there are some points where it gets a little graphic with the flashback death scenes where they explain how the girls died and became zombies. And there's a few times for comedic effect where sometimes like their limbs or heads are removed, but it's not like gory, it's like very much a cartoon. So I'd say, honestly, it's a great anime for everyone, as long as you're cool with what I previously mentioned. Now, there are a few things I wish they had changed. First, I have a bit of a problem with the logic behind their group. Now, they're zombies, yeah? So why not make the group be called Zombie Idols, or Idols from the Dead, or something like that, and have the group's theme be zombies? And then whenever something happened, like an arm falling off or something, they could pretend it was special effects. And that wouldn't be suspicious at all because no one would suspect they were real zombies. Now, the next thing I want to mention is spoilers for the last part of the season. So I really don't want to spoil anyone for this part, so please mute the audio until the timestamp or skip to that time. There will be a spoilers button on the screen while I speak. Alrighty, so, you know how at the end, our main character gets amnesia? Well, I adored that plot twist. It was so unexpected and I loved it because, I always love the amnesia gimmick. And I really love seeing how different series explore that and have their own interpretations. And I really enjoyed how we got to learn about her more as a character because of that. However, I think it's a missed opportunity because I really dislike that instead of making her all like, oh my gosh, I'm a zombie? Why didn't you let me rest? I don't want to do this. I want to see my family, tell them I'm alive, or something like that. Instead, they just made her all self-depressing and just kind of emo. Yes, it built character, but I felt like it was a missed opportunity for something better. And I have to say, I was kind of getting sick of it out of the last episode. She was like, you guys do it without me. I'm not good enough. Really? That was me on screen? I can't dance or sing like that. It didn't even seem like a real reaction. Like, I would have been fine if she was like that on top of being like, and plus, I want to see my family. I'm sad about this, but whatever. I mean, it's fine, but I would have written it better. Now then, the spoilers are over, so everyone can come on back. Now, this speed paint is getting pretty long, but before I stop talking about this anime, I would like to lastly say what I would like in Season 2. First off, I'd like to find out more about all of the girls' identities and know how every single girl died, because in the first season, we currently only know a few of the girls' backstories and deaths. Secondly, I really want Tai-chan to become fully awake. I really liked what they did with her character in this season, starting off with a real brain zombie, and as the season went on, she became more human, and she still acts like a zombie, don't get me wrong, but as the season went on, she became more cognizant. So I really want to know Tai-chan's backstory and death in the next season when she becomes fully awake. Now, the last thing is not necessarily what I want in the next season. However, it's a theory I have that's probably not true, but I thought I'd say it anyway. Now, what if, hear me out, Kotaro is a zombie? Now, hear me out, but I find it rather suspicious how we know nothing about Kotaro's backstory. Just why does he love Saga so much? Why does he want to become idols? Why doesn't he know anyone in his so-called hometown? How did he choose the girls, and how did they bring him back to life? He's a rather mysterious character, as he doesn't reveal any of his info, even when the girls ask. And he also is master of making the girls look human, so is he putting on a disguise too? Now, my one flaw with this theory is that I mentioned early in this video, he's seen taking a bath, but however, he could be using some sort of waterproof skincare, because, in one of the episodes, they do talk about that, but probably, my little theory probably isn't true. Now then, that's my review and thoughts on the anime. I had such a fun time watching it and making this video. The speed paint was so fun to draw, and I'm so thrilled with how it turned out. I'm really happy with the shading and poses, and the composition turned out great in my opinion. And to JP who commissioned this video, I really hope you enjoyed it. And to all the viewer chans watching, make sure to go follow JP if you like ZombieLand Saga. Oh, and if you like both ZombieLand Saga and Fire Emblem 3 Houses, go to his AO3 because he's writing an awesome fanfiction that's a crossover between these two series. Oh, and one last thing, if you're interested in commissioning me, check out the form below. In the form, I list everything I currently am offering, including art, animation, a speed paint like this, and much more. So, I'm the Otaku Artist, and I'll see you guys next time for another speed paint.